It's time now for Harm Reduction. Heard every Tuesday at 7 p.m. with Will Beaton. Cutting Edge Radio, where we'll ask the questions others don't want to ask. Now here's your host, Will Beaton.
Hey, Cal.
Hi, Will. How you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. We are here reporting for the Harm Reduction Report from right next to the little coffee shop in the Memorial Union at UND on campus.
Right here on campus.
And I can't help but notice this sad thing that's behind you. It's called the Green Room, and it looks to me like a little bookstore, kind of. Only they sell basically T-shirts and sweaters and like some pencils. And it's just too bad because it used to be this really cool, chill hangout zone. There's still a fireplace in there.
But now it's entirely empty, void of people.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to hang out surrounded by all this, like, overpriced sweaters and stuff? I don't know.
I wonder how much they actually are. Surely overpriced.
You're right. Maybe I shouldn't say they're overpriced until I go in there. But, anyway, it's good to be here. I'm really excited to meet you today, Cal, because this morning you were involved in an event in downtown G-Funk here. What was the name of this event, or what was the general gist of it?
Yeah, so the event was titled Addiction at Work, and it took place at the Chamber of Commerce building downtown on 3rd Street. And it was really fun. It was organized by Michael Dulitz again, you know, the wonderful event organizer, and I believe Debbie Swanson as well participated in the organization. And what it was an event geared towards business owners, and it was really cool. It was like a small little room, and at the end there was open discussion, and the event was geared towards, you know, the appropriate stance for businesses to take towards addiction, and it was a call to action, like what kinds of things should the business owners in the room leave and do at the end of the event. And they're pretty simple call to actions, very practical, very reasonable. You know, the first one being go home tonight with your family and talk about the event. Open up a dialogue. That was the call to action, just a very basic, practical call to action, and that will get things moving along. They had, the ending was also another, it was, bring the discussion to your workplace and discuss it with your employees. Open up this door to your employees about recovery and stuff.
Nice. So was it mainly for the business owners how to deal with addiction within their own employees, or also within the people they serve in their business, their customers and stuff? Mainly dealing with their employees?
It was mainly dealing with their employees. And it was pretty powerful. At the end, everyone came up and was like, everyone knew somebody who has suffered with addiction, or they themselves have suffered with addiction or alcoholism or what have you, you know? So everyone was very receptive, which is very awesome because it's business owners. So during the event, the point was raised. We raised the point, like, I attribute a lot of my recovery to my family, having that support, the intellectual resources of my dad, the financial resources of my family, and their ability to overlook the stigma. When push came to shove, they were like, okay, look, we're going to help you. We're going to do what we can. And they knew about Suboxone and stuff. So one huge point during the event was about how a lot of people don't have that support, that network. So it stands to reason that business owners and the community in general ought to step up to the plate in that regard.
To be part of that support.
Yes.
A lot of people, their workplace is their main, it's like where they interact with the most people.
Yeah, that's their everything.
And maybe it's like where a lot of their friends are and where a lot of their everything is. Yeah. So it makes sense. I would assume that they talked about the financial incentive for businesses to have a healthy, addiction or I'm not sure what words they use to describe it all, but talking about the fact that if their employees are suffering then their business is going to be suffering.
Right. Yeah.
So to invest in the health of their employees would ultimately return to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was what people were talking about.
Yep, that came up. It's a wise investment for several reasons. I have a couple here that I raised, and
Oh, sweet.
like the cost of firing somebody is the cost of firing and then rehiring and retraining. That's like costly, and it takes time. It's more costly than you might imagine. It's inconvenient, whereas you might end up investing in the recovery of that employee, especially when they're high-performing employees. You help them recover and stay employed within that business and keep giving back to the business. So there's that practical aspect of it. One thing I came across when I was looking at a couple of articles was that some of these company policies lead to their high-level employees, their high-performing employees being fired because of a drug violation or whatever, a company violation, when really the entire company is thinking like, oh, we don't want to let this guy go. He's great. He's helping our company. But there is this policy that they have to adhere to.
Interesting. And for some of the businesses, I mean, they're setting their own policies. Were there any representatives of the state or of the city, of the government, talking about what their policies are? Are employers required to offer by the government any kind of assistance that you learned about at this event?
I'm not sure. That's a good question, but
there are certain things they are legally not allowed to do.
Sure, yeah.
Like give just I don't know what exactly, but
yeah, they might have hit on that. I'm sure they did. I was overwhelmed. I was emotionally drained after speaking. I really was.
Oh, yeah.
But it was awesome that these, there is a little bit of ability on their part as CEOs or as managers or whatever. There is a little bit of discretion involved on their part. But there is also bureaucracy. If a company has a policy at that time, then it has to be changed before,
I wonder, were there sort of different distinct perspectives at this meeting from large businesses and small businesses?
It didn't really seem like it. It seemed like everybody was pretty much kind of on board. They're thinking. It seemed to me that they were thinking like, "Hey, this is great. This is true." Other points about the incentive for these businesses involve, when you care about your employees and your employee feels cared about, that keeps the good morale. It keeps them productive. It keeps them loyal to the cause of the company, the mission statement of the company. So
when they feel more a family, when they feel more supported by their employer.
Yeah, when they know that they can count on their employer as a resource. Not only are they a resource to their employer, but they feel like they can count on their employer as a resource for their wellness too. Mm-hmm. And so that was really helpful. I was trying to get a couple of statistics. I wanted to go in there with just a few statistics. And I pulled this one off of Cast Light Health Inc. Opioid abuse. It stated that opioid abusers cost employees nearly twice as much in medical expenses alone as non-abusers. And then from another source, it said that addicts are more likely to be sick, absent, and less productive, use more workers' comp, et cetera, et cetera. So this source, Workforce, reported that addicts use 3 times the amount of sick benefits and 5 times more worker comp claims. So it stands to reason that investing the resources in those people's wellness will eliminate or at least decrease that 3 times sick benefit drain on the company.
I wonder if some of the employers at the event, hearing or talking about those statistics, were sort of surprised. Did you get the impression that everybody was pretty much in agreement that that's sensible and they can explain maybe from their own experience how that is the case? People with addictions will end up costing their business more.
Yeah, everyone kind of, I heard them go, whoa, kind of make that, the whole crowd was kind of like, whoa, really?
So they were a little surprised.
They were a little bit surprised, yeah. And I mean, the point is, whether it's 3 times sick benefit, 4 times sick benefit, or 2 times sick benefit that addicts use, the point is that addicts use more of these resources. So, naturally, then the question arises, why not just use drug screening and terminate employees that are using drugs?
And that are going to cost the business more money.
Right, yeah. And so,
But the answer is hiring is expensive and firing is expensive.
Yeah.
Was there more?
That was one answer, yeah. Yeah, as we mentioned, there was the rehiring and the retraining and everything. Also, the fact that drug screening is not always very reliable. It's inaccurate. People, when they're searching for a job, they might halt their drug use for a few days and pass the initial drug screen. Or there's even other ways. There's all those drinks and whatever people use to pass drug screens. And so, which is what I ended up doing when I was employed at McDonald's. I bypassed those drug screens by using things like that, or just by halting my usage or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that is a drain because I went back to work. I hid my addiction, went back to work, passed the drug screen, but continued to use these 3 times sick benefits. I was always sick, always calling in and whatever, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of it as well.
Yeah, very interesting. I wonder, were there any perspectives there that surprised you at this event? Comments that surprised you in one way or the other, I guess? About, wow, thinking that's the mindset of somebody here. Maybe they are farther ahead or farther behind than you might think.
Yeah, that was a good way to ask the question. I was pretty surprised that everybody seemed to be nodding their heads a little bit, very understandingly. I didn't realize that. I had the conversation with my girlfriend, kind of rehearsing my pitch a little bit, and she raised some very valid points. She was playing the role of the business owner and sort of playing devil's advocate. Yeah,
I can totally see her doing that really well.
Yeah, she does that very well. So she was, raising the points well, I'm a business owner. Why not? I want to thrive. Why not just eliminate the employees and stuff? So going into the event, I anticipated that some people there would have that mindset. And surely there is still a little bit of that. I mean, I understand social Darwinism, you have to perform socially to thrive socially, basically.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it was interesting that everyone was so receptive. It was pretty cool.
Okay, nice. Yeah, really cool. I'm excited for more. I remember when Michael first told me about this event, how it was going to be directed towards business owners. Mm-hmm. And at first I didn't quite understand the angle, but now it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. My mother's worked at Altru for 35 years, and I don't know what that business's policies are on helping their employees with addictions or recovering and stuff like that. I should ask my mother her opinion. But they just seem like an interesting example for our G-Funk discussion, because Altru is one of the biggest employers in town, I'm pretty sure. And they are a hospital. Yeah. So I wonder how they take care of their own employees as far as making resources available and stuff. You didn't happen to talk to anybody from Altru or anything, did you?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, just curious.
I wish I should have gone in there with some of my own questions. That would have been good. Now I have a lot more questions. Before I was trying to prepare my own little spiel, but now I'm wondering these things these points you're raising.
Huh. Yeah, okay. So what other questions do you have?
Be like a good follow-up.
Uh-huh. Since you left the event this morning, can you think of other questions that you've been raised in your head that you wished you would have asked?
Well, specifically, I was wondering what bigger, like so. You also raised the point. Like, what do these bigger corporations? How do they handle things differently than the smaller businesses? Like, would Walmart be more? Would it be easier for them to just fire and rehire? You know,
Yeah,
versus
I wonder.
a smaller, tighter knit. Is a small business more of like a family kind of?
Right, and when you compare Ultra, just as an example, though they're a very big employer, they obviously don't come near Walmart's international employment, but I'm sure Ultra employs more people in town, a lot more
Yeah.
than Walmart does. But yeah, I wonder if, being Walmart, you have this legions of resources behind you. Do they provide more help for their employees, or do they just accept more losses in that regard? I wonder how Ultra seems compared to that way. They probably have fewer resources, though they still, I'm assuming, have quite a bit compared to, say, Little Bangkok restaurant or something.
Yeah.
So I wonder, are the smaller businesses able to work with their employees easier or harder? And I wonder if that's a question of resources or time they have for people on hand to help. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so aside, I wasn't the only speaker there at the event. It was really great. There were some people from this group called Face It Together out of the Fargo Moorhead area. One of them, which I remember from the Empire event, Christy Ulrich, who's the executive director of Face It Together, was at this event as well and spoke at this event as well.
Cool.
And it was really fascinating. This Face It Together group offers free recovery coaching is what it is. And they actually offered me a gig at some point. They're like, hey, you have my card. If you're interested in being a recovery coach, give me an email, give me a call and stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so
what is that? Do you know what that role is exactly?
I think it is somewhere in between like an AA sponsor and then like the clinical counseling. I think it's somewhere in the middle. They said it like they offer all free services. Their services are free.
The customers, to the consumers.
Yeah, there was some little caveat. I think that they sign on with a business, and then some percentage, a very small percentage that the business makes, they pay to Face It Together or something like that. I don't know. I didn't quite understand.
Interesting. Employers, will pay Face It Together to send their employees to get help. Is that?
Yeah, it was something like that.
Interesting.
It sounded almost like a little bit of insurance, almost like the Face It Together gets a small, like $1 per employee or whatever, and then eventually it's redeemed all on the one employee that needs it. Something like that. I believe. Don't quote me on that. We'll have to check into that.
Yeah.
But that's what I was gathering from it.
Gotcha. Cool. Who else was there? You got a couple other business cards here. Are these other speakers?
No, these two were not other speakers, but there's this Kent Barnes who offered me an internship. He said if I ever need an internship, give him a call, from Meridian Behavioral Health.
What do they do?
They are a treatment facility, and he's a treatment director.
I like his business card.
Yeah,
It's very colorful.
Colorful here. The healing potential of personalized care.
Nice.
Yeah, so the Face It Together group was really, really cool. They were going in there with the mission of like, by one of their guys' own words, I think Tim Ryan, he was saying, instead of treating humans as human capital, treat them as human beings, and kind of essentially what's good for them is good for us, and what's good for us is going to be good for everybody. It's so long as we're operating within ethical terms. Whatever's good for me is good for you, as long as I'm being ethical.
Yes. I think about the tragedy of the commons, which was a wildlife term we learned in my wildlife classes here at UND. That is like how everybody will abuse the shared resource. Everybody will take one extra for themselves, even if it is going to hurt everybody eventually.
Right.
So what you're talking about, that whole community attitude of what's good for the employee is good for everybody. It seems like a good attitude to have. Perhaps some of the resistance is people worried about the tragedy of the commons, assuming that we are going to abuse these resources and that we'll all run out of money or something. It's interesting. You got this positive vibe that people are trying to overcome that fear.
Yeah. I mean, at the risk of sounding overly optimistic, like this tragedy of the commons that you're talking about is a real fear. That's like a legitimate fear, but the mission of this Face It Together group was to overcome that. Yeah, and
Nice.
that was sort of the tone and the modality of the event there.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm glad you had fun. Do you know if Michael's planning anything else soon?
During speaking, that recovery house came up a little bit.
Oh, really?
The on-campus recovery house, the potential for it, the ideas, the idea that it could someday come to fruition.
Were you talking about that?
No, I didn't bring that up.
Oh, who did?
I overheard somebody talking about it. I don't know who brought it up. I just, out of the corner of my eyes,
Okay.
out of the center of my ear.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. The thing that Catherine just sent us the other day, or a few days ago, about there's this group called it's like something about addiction recovery in higher education coalition or something, and they have a nice website, and they apparently go around to universities and help them start these recovery houses. And I think this group is affiliated with that Step Up organization at Augsburg University that we were talking about before. And so we were going to follow up with that group. We should message them and say that maybe we should get one going at UND.
Yeah, that's cool. There's a group of people to actually help initiate the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's there's a Tyler Williams for for this group.
Yeah.
Who will just help you do stuff.
That's cool. That's like very specific. Get recovery houses on campus. Just go around the nation doing that?
Yeah, I think so. And it looks like it's like a whole professional society. I don't know if they have conferences every year or something, but they
Cool.
clearly share resources somehow. And that's what Catherine sent us. And yeah, I think she found out about that because she reached out to the people at Augsburg and said, "How did you start your program?" And they told her about this. And I think she might have contacted their group too. Well, I'll have to ask her if we see her at the meeting today for more. But that would be pretty cool.
Sweet. Yeah. Sounds nice.
And one argument we talked about that earlier was people went to Augsburg because they had this support available.
Yeah. Specifically for that.
Specifically because they had that support available. So, if people knew that they could have similar support in their jobs in North Dakota, then people would want to be there, want to stay there, go there for that reason. So, kind of seems like good for everybody kind of thing.
Yeah.
Good for the employers if we got to make this support available and then brag about it so that young people at UND and elsewhere will stay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. What just came to mind, I hadn't made this connection before, but when I was first recovering from my addiction, I was thinking along the lines of I'll wait a couple years to go back to school, to move out, and because I didn't want to separate myself from that support network, that recovery network that I was participating in. So that would be super helpful, super practical to have that right there on campus. People, that's one of the things I heard so often in treatment was, I want to go back to school, but not yet. Now's not the time. I can't yet. I got to do this recovery thing, and I got to get far past it because there isn't really that much service on campus related to that. In fact, there's a lot of the opposite. There's a lot of temptation, a lot of binge drinking, and the culture that's awesome to binge drink. And to be the person who can put down the most shots or whatever.
Yeah, I bet a lot of people, in college feel somewhat supported. At least at Augsburg, there are some people who feel very supported, but then they probably graduate and find themselves, suddenly a lot less support. I mean, I didn't utilize a lot of resources like that when I was in college, but there's all kinds of resources available to college students.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't know, just seems like it. And when you graduate, suddenly you don't get these student discounts for anything. You don't get the opportunity to apply for these jobs or travel grants or whatever. And it's not that big a deal. But if it were something so serious as, your health like that, and you're in school, I mean, I could totally understand why somebody would fail a couple classes to stay in school.
Oh, interesting.
Just to stay near the resources. And I mean, most of those people are probably paying for them anyway. So maybe that's not the smartest thing to say, but if more people had resources available outside of school in their jobs, which they're hopefully getting after school, then they could keep feeling supported, continue on the right path.
Resources all along the way would just make it great, make it best for everybody. And society would just thrive. It wouldn't be these buckets just consuming water.
It'd be really cool if, it makes sense then why the city and the Chamber of Commerce would be focusing on this and doing stuff about this, and then totally bragging about it, because if we had data to show that, come work in Grand Forks, you are going to be supported no matter what unforeseen things come up in your life, and we have, a record here showing that we are better than most other cities around here in supporting our employees, and if you can brag about that, people will come to your city or to your university, and that seems like that would bring in the money as well, which is good for everyone.
Yep. Yeah, sounds like a good thing all around.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch it unfold here. I was super excited to be participating in that conversation. Very honored. And I mentioned that, that was one of the first things I said. I was very, very honored. One thing I didn't get to mention, it totally slipped my mind, was I was planning to just kind of say my name, introduce myself very briefly, and then and then paint this picture of a nasty addiction, and then at the end, kind of boast a little bit without sounding pretentious, but sort of boast about my accomplishments and my future goals. I totally spaced to start boasting, because it's something that you typically give your credentials and your career goals at the beginning, and I just spaced it out. I was excited to tell him. I did drop a line about the radio show.
Oh, good.
Stuff like that. So
nice.
But I was hoping to have it all clunked in at the end and be sort of demonstrate I'm one example of how the small investment has paid off, and I can now give back. And these are all the things I'm doing now to give back.
Yes. Well, I'm sure the gist of the message got across.
Yeah, it did.
That's cool. I just got an email right this second from Students for Sensible Drug Policy about our upcoming weekend adventure.
Yeah.
So it's Wednesday, isn't it?
Yep.
And I'm leaving for Minneapolis tomorrow, and I'm flying from there on Friday. You're flying on Friday too, right?
Yep.
You're playing. We could be on the same plane in Minneapolis. Do you know when you're leaving?
I'm leaving Fargo 11.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was later. I thought it was 5 or something like that, but it's around 11.
And then you're stopping in Minneapolis.
Stopping in Minneapolis, and so I'll land in Minneapolis at 12, and then leaving Minneapolis at 12:50. So a 45-minute layover.
I'm not sure if we're on the same plane or not, but I'm leaving around the same time.
Okay.
Either way, I'll see you in Baltimore.
Yeah. It'd be fun to land ourselves on the same plane. We should have coordinated that a little bit better, but there were all kinds of other things to coordinate too.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's not a big deal.
I'm just glad we're going to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They sent us our final full description of our session.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, let's hear it.
It's kind of stuff we've already talked about, Andrew Sadek and all that, but I haven't totally read the final text of their things. The first thing I'd like to mention is that the title they chose to go with was what I sent them was Confidential Informant Reform, Learning from the Lives of Andrew Sadek and Rachel Hoffman. We talked about this last time. That difference between lives and
Versus
deaths. Yeah, because both Andrew and Rachel died, and that's why we know them. But learning from the lives of Andrew and Rachel. What I'd really like to show you is Lance Block and Matthew Fogg. Those are the speakers who will be with me on the panel. And I just want to read it real quick. I don't know what they ended up going with.
Yeah.
Lance Block is a Florida attorney who worked to pass Rachel's Law after the 2018 murder. No, not 2018. It happened like 2012 or something. Rachel's Law after the murder of Florida State University Students for Sensible Drug Policy member Rachel Hoffman, who had been coerced into serving as an undercover informant for police after being arrested for marijuana possession on campus. The legislation resulting from Block's work is one of the very first attempts to reform police CI policies in the United States. Modeled after this legislation is North Dakota's Andrews Law, which Block also contributed to and helped pass last year after the 2014 murder of Andrew Sadek. He's a passionate communicator about CI policy reform. Lance interviewed last year in a 60 Minutes documentary. He told about Rachel and Andrew and talked about a lot of other cool stuff. Okay, I paraphrased that last sentence there. But here, I want to tell you about Matthew Fogg, because I haven't met him, but Stacia at SSDP helped arrange for him to be on our panel. And Matthew Fogg is a former deputy chief of the U.S. Marshals Service and a current member of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. That's a big organization of current and retired law enforcement people who are in favor of changing drug laws.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah, they might have changed their name actually to Law Enforcement Action something. Maybe it is still Against Prohibition, but I really like that name.
Yeah, that's very specific.
It's simple, yeah. Law Enforcement Against Prohibition.
Speaks for itself.
And that's a pretty sensible thing to be against, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, Matthew Fogg received the District of Columbia U.S. Attorney and Federal Bar Association's highest award during his 32-year-long career, tracking down more than 300 of the country's most wanted fugitives. Fogg retired from the Marshal Service following a final D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals decision finding that the Marshal Service grossly violated his civil rights while operating a racially hostile environment for African-American deputy marshals nationwide. With experience recruiting and working with confidential informants, Matthew Fogg will provide a law enforcement perspective on the challenges facing the movement to sensibly reform CI policies. So I'm curious to learn more about him because, he was in a lawsuit, basically, that found that I think it was something like the Marshal Service was asking their deputies to racially target people and how they were pulling people over or something. And it was a whole big thing, I guess, and found that they were operating a bad work environment.
Okay.
So that's kind of separate to his work with confidential informants, I think. But he apparently, as a marshal, had experience recruiting CIs and working with them and stuff. So
Interesting. That'll be awesome. Lance Block and Matthew Fogg. That's perfect, dude.
yeah,
That's really good. That's going to be a great combination up there, and then you're up there doing the questioning, doing questions and feedback and whatnot.
yeah.
That'll be an awesome presentation.
I'm excited, dude. You got to help me think of some good questions because
Sure,
I'm a little nervous. You know,
Okay.
I want to make sure that we prepare. And it's I've been thinking about it a lot, but it's just in a couple days now, and I want to make sure we ask some good questions. But I'm feeling good about it. I'm really grateful that Lance wants to come all the way from Florida to speak in Baltimore with us, and SSDP's reimbursing him a little bit and waiving his registration fee because of our students our chapter points and all that.
Yeah.
But
All of the events we've been doing and the radio and stuff.
dude, it's cool that he wants to come all the way there, and it's going to cost him something to do that,
Yeah.
And he's just doing it because he he likes us, and he wants to support us, even though he's only talked to us on the phone a couple times, and that means a lot, dude. This is basically he's a stranger to us, but he wants to support the community, and this is a great way for him to do so. I'm excited to see him in person too.
Yeah, it's gonna be a blast.
There will be more sessions and stuff. My friend is coming all the way up from Washington, D.C., which is not that far away from Baltimore, but it's like a train ride away or something. My friend Connor's going to come listen to us speak and help us record the situation. So that will be one of our episodes when we return, I imagine, will be from our session. But I'm excited to see what other kinds of ideas. Definitely I'm going to bring our microphone, and we could set it up to my laptop. So if we find an open space in the conference area to get people to come in and sit down with us and just give a quick little chat.
Cool.
That's one idea I have, to collect some cool audio footage. What do you call it? Recordings, I guess.
That'll be great. We're going to have lots of good stuff, lots of good conversations.
I wonder, what questions should we ask everybody who sits down with us? Maybe we should have one or two little questions that we see how people answer differently. Like, what is sensible drug policy? Or, I don't know.
What is harm reduction? We could ask everyone that. I mean, we'd probably get a lot of the same, but maybe we'll get a couple points here and there that will expand like our vocabulary about what harm reduction is. Yes. That might be kind of cool.
What is harm reduction like?
Yeah.
I want people to answer that. It's like having a lifeguard on duty. That's harm reduction.
Yeah, that'd be cool, yeah. Either that, or we could ask them about, like, I don't know, a specific policy, specific drug policy. What is your idea about, the cannabis situation going on, or the opioid epidemic? I don't know.
I am excited to see what's most important to people, what's on their mind the most.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking back to last April when our psychedelic club SSDP chapter paid for me to go to San Francisco to attend the MAPS conference. That's, again, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, which is the fiscal sponsor of the Psychedelic Club. Now, a lot of the SSDP people we're going to see at this conference were at MAPS, and they are very kind of co-aligned, SSDP and MAPS, I think, though they do different things, At the MAPS conference, it felt like, the biggest thing that the conference organizers were excited to talk about was the fact that they are moving into phase 3 clinical trials for PTSD treatment with MDMA, that's Molly ecstasy, and so they were excited about that. Everybody at the conference was interested in psychedelics as medicines, as treatments for problems. There were some things about microdosing and just the effect on creativity and stuff like that. There were people who were more spiritually inclined and who had done anthropology research with tribes in South America about ayahuasca and stuff. At this conference, I don't think we're going to have a lot of that. I mean, this is for policy, right?
Yeah.
And we're in Baltimore, so I'm curious to see what kind of the atmosphere is like and what specifically topics are on everybody's mind. I expect marijuana policy is obviously something everybody's heard about at this conference. I wonder if that is... And I mean, this must have been a topic they've been talking about for decades. Yeah. So, I mean, they're doing better now than they ever have. I guess this movement they're supporting for decreasing criminalization of marijuana across the country. I think it's more than half the states in the country have some form of legal marijuana now, right? I wonder what else policy related they're going to be interested in. Perhaps there are policies regarding employers and resources available and stuff like that. I wonder if the event you were at this morning, if you could talk to anybody who might show up at this SSDP conference, what kinds of policy-related questions might apply to the discussion you had this morning, stuff like that. I wonder if you'll encounter any thoughts like that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be fun.
I'm excited to see the direction of the harm reduction report. We were discussing earlier what happens this summer when I'm probably going to be traveling and gone. It's getting me think about what sorts of topics we want to cover on the show in coming weeks and months. I hope doing these local events like what you just did this morning and other things that we can get ourselves into keep us inspired and connected to talking to local people like Michael and building real projects. I hope we keep traveling and doing stuff like this conference. I hope this conference is a boost to the excitement levels, that we meet some people that get us excited. I hope we do more music on the show and artsy things.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that'd be fun.
Music is good. That music you did was great. Did you get the clip I sent of Evan?
Oh,
I telegrammed you something.
Yeah, I didn't listen to it.
Okay, yeah. It's just a quick 4-minute little clip. We didn't quite get the before and after interview, but he wanted to do the music. He was willing to do the music, and his music is related to, harm reduction and drug addiction and stuff. And it was a pretty catchy song. So I sent that over to you. Maybe we could use that for a couple minutes or the next week's episode or something.
Yeah. You said Evan's playing tonight?
Yeah.
Downtown?
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wonder if you'll call out and request his harm reduction song during his set.
Yeah, it's an original.
Cool. Well, I'm looking for the month of April. I might be working on my friend's farm in California, and so I was wondering. Well, this is a little bit of a bummer because that takes me out of the community here, and so but for the month of April, you'll be in G-Funk.
Yep.
So I was expecting that we could, depending on if you interview some really cool person or something, you can cover an episode, or if I find somebody who can talk about an issue that's related to stuff going on in Grand Forks, I think we could work together. And
yeah, I'd love to keep it going. I would. The more I think about it, I've been thinking about it the last couple of weeks, and it's like it's a responsibility to keep it going, but it's totally worth it. It's so cool, and like you mentioned, the episodes are getting cooler. They're getting better. They're getting more fun. The events are becoming more frequent, easier to come by. The opportunities, the support, and the people are giving business cards at events and saying like, "Hey, send me an email, and we'll collaborate because this is something that we ought to be talking about." And it almost like justifies our spot on the radio, and it means that we should keep it going.
Yeah, I feel good about keeping it going too. And if my role has to be a little bit less for a few weeks on and off through April and during the summer, what I know I can continue to do is get interviews with people and record my own voice talking about things. And so it got me wondering, like, okay, if I were to really just sit with myself and try to think a lot about something good that would be even, let's just say, a part of each episode for 6 weeks. I was imagining, say I had half an hour or less for 6 weeks in a row, and I just want to have it be sort of like a philosopher series, something that each little segment is connected in a meaningful way, and like I'm watching like an Alan Watts lecture series or something.
Sure, that'd be awesome.
Where it's like intelligently designed and prepared, but then sort of off the cuffedly administered.
Yeah.
It got me thinking about what would be important. What would be the main topics? What would matter? What would I think that I actually have to tell anyone? And it's been a fun kind of challenge, and it's been a struggle thinking about it. And the reason I'm not super comfortable every week just sitting down and recording my own self talking for an hour is because I question myself a lot about, well, what do I know about this? Or maybe, why do they need to hear this from me now like that? But this is an opportunity for us, so we should try to face those challenges and find an answer to them.
Yep.
And think more.
That sounds cool. I like that idea.
Maybe because I will be away, I won't be able to interview G-Funkers. You will be, if there are G-Funkers on and off that you can interview during the times I'm traveling. But I can be still sending you things that supplement. I wonder if our episodes in the near future, will sort of be a little more segmatic in that sense, or even just like two-parters.
Yeah, a couple of different topics, you mean, you're saying?
Yeah, like, let's say you're the editor, you will record the buffer on the ends, the intro and outro minutes to describe what the episode's about. Maybe each episode contains, 20 to 30 minutes of something I sent you, and then, like, another little conversation you had with somebody or something like that. Maybe that would be a sensible way for us to keep it going. And to change it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. I wonder what things we can experiment with during that time. And after that time, we'll do something else. And hopefully we'll have learned something. So we should try to think of more different ways to do it.
Yeah, sounds like fun. Sounds engaging. Like you mentioned, incorporating a little bit more music here and there would be awesome too. We could still do like phone calls. We could record our phone calls. We could still do like topics, you and I, if you have like a philosophical idea but you don't want to do it all by yourself.
Yeah.
But sometimes your greatest stuff comes out when you're just alone, sitting there just thinking all by yourself, and it may not always be right, but you just put it out there as like a brainstorming idea with your little disclaimer at the beginning, like, I don't know, I'm just thinking, brainstorming, just spitting out ideas. And then do like a follow-up. I'd do like a follow-up conversation, or you would, or something. Or we would.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wonder what the listeners would like. I wonder what would be most impactful. I like this, philosophy does seem very relevant. The reason I say that is because one of the points I had today that I raised at that event was related to like my philosophy, my worldview, how I've grown to sort of operate in this world under the supposition that like what is good for the people around me is good for me as well. And what's good for me should be good for other people. I should make it good for other people if something is good for me. That's kind of a deep philosophical idea, sort of almost spiritual in some ways, you can get into that. So it's relevant. I mean, one thing I'd like to do is I think what I'll do is take some Alan Watts recordings and some other people like that, and play a segment of it, and then discuss it, and then maybe another little segment of it, something like that. I think I had fun doing that, and finding maybe some of the great texts about some of this. And if there's not a recording of it, to reread them, just to read them, maybe that would be cool too. Mm-hmm. And in the process, I'll have to figure out what the coolest texts are, because I don't necessarily know. I'm sure there's a lot of great stuff. Maybe that would be fun. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll work out fine. It'll kind of just organically evolve on its own. And
if you ask me what the people want, and it would be great if more of them were still messaging us on Facebook or on YouTube or on the sandbaggernews.org website, telling us what they want. When we got that big wave of comments after that live event at the Empire, what I think I noticed was that people were really jazzed about telling us that they knew somebody in a similar situation.
Yeah.
Finding this common ground was really important for people.
Yeah.
So perhaps we should have that on our mind, realizing that a lot of people would love to know that they are not alone.
Yeah, good observation.
And and so let's find more ways to explain that. to highlight that more people are in the same boat as you. More people than you think. I think that'd be a good message. If at the end of the summer we had made a bunch of episodes or something, and we get a few messages that say that, people say, I became aware that I was not alone because of what you did. That would probably be one of the coolest things we could hear at the end of it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
What else would be the greatest thing to hear after more time doing this? That we helped people get out of addictions, or that we, something like that?
Yeah, it's nice it's encouraging for me to hear that we encouraged other people. Like you said, that to know that they feel like they're not alone, like almost a sense of camaraderie. Like they hear our story, they hear what we're doing, and they're like, thank you. And I value that, and they value that. Yeah.
A different idea just came to mind. What about recording even 10 minutes of the SSDP Psychedelic Club meeting every week? Maybe it'd be annoying to record the whole meeting every time, because we want to keep that in a nice, chill place where everybody can be themselves or whatever. But for 10 minutes of the meeting each week could be dedicated to getting some footage. And I mean, any time it could be longer. Like, let's say somebody wants to do a presentation about something in the meeting, you can record that audio, and it would make a really cool meeting, and also cover some or part or a lot of that week's episode too.
Yeah, good idea.
I think people would be excited about that. We tell them, think about a 5 to 55 minute long thing you want to do for the meeting. We could also put on the radio. I bet that would be a hit.
Yeah.
And I bet that it'd all be worth points. Everything we do, I'm sure it would be worth points. And it would be a cool way to get people involved, get everybody feeling like they're participating, and good way to fill at least a segment, Let's check in on the Psychedelic Club's meeting each week for our episode. For even just 5 minutes would be really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll be good. I like how you made sure, we don't want to, we only want to record 10 minutes of the session. You want it to be sort of a laid-back environment in the meetings, but that'll be a lot of fun. I'm sure Kurt will love, he expressed many times that he'd love to talk about Alan Watts or McKenna more specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he likes Terrence McKenna. I've been going through all Alan Watts footage I can find related to addiction or substances, and creating a storage archive of all of this stuff, and I'm going to try to chunk it out in different topics, and hopefully use that in some upcoming episodes. It's not like Alan Watts is the authority on addiction or anything, but I really appreciate his perspective. Mm-hmm. I bet we could find lots of other cool... there's tons of TED Talks and stuff. I wonder if we can share little clips of some of that audio on the show and discuss that. I bet we could. That could be fun. Meanwhile, think about more ways to do community things. A reminder that on March 15th, the North Dakota Heart Institute, which is located in the same building as the KUQQ radio station on Columbia Road in good old G-Funk, is having an event, free dinner, and free heart health screenings and discussion about resources and stuff. And it's like a harm reduction thing. Yeah, we were talking about it last week. Noah convinced me that it's harm reduction in its own way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, heart disease kills more people than all the drugs combined, I'm pretty sure.
Sounds valid to me.
So, thinking about more community events we can be involved in. Anything we do is it doesn't have to be perfect. I guess that's something I keep telling myself. It's like, I could work on this, or try to interview these people, or learn about this topic, or try to get this ball rolling. And I always think like, but I probably don't have enough time to make it perfect, so then I end up doing nothing at all.
Right, yeah.
That doesn't seem like the right strategy.
Like your shirt says, let it be. Let it be how it is. Kind of go with the flow, produce something. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, and let it build and let it surprise you too.
Let it happen organically. I feel that way about every presentation like that I've ever given. It's like it's not perfect yet. It's not perfect. It never will be. It'll always be a work in progress. But the point is just putting it out there and being okay with putting it out there, and then being receptive to whatever positive or negative criticism you get, and then reframing that criticism to be a beneficial thing. Use it to your advantage. Everything.
Yeah, and these chances we get to talk to people, like at this meeting in Baltimore, are going to be worth more than what we think they will be in the moment. And sometimes even the thing that we think is going to be worth a lot in the moment ends up, you just totally forget about it because something else happens.
Yeah.
You go in with a bunch of intentions. Usually I'd make a full schedule for myself, exactly what topics I want to listen to at the conference, and plan it all out. And then as soon as I get there, basically throw out my plan and just see what happens anyway.
Right.
And I think that's good. It's a good. You got to find the balance of thinking about it ahead of time and going with the flow in the moment. Mm-hmm. There's a nice connection between those things, but it's always a surprise what are the most valuable relationships you make at a conference like this. So I'm excited for us, and maybe these questions we have about what the future of this thing is will become more clear. Maybe we meet a bunch of people here who would want to submit 5 to 10 minute segments to the show each week, or some weeks too. That'd be so cool. Get some little 5 to 10 minute chunks of perspectives from people outside of G-Funk, and then you here, providing some G-Funk experience too.
Right.
In each episode could be pretty fun.
That'd be cool. I mean, like you mentioned, you like Joe Rogan's podcasts. Doesn't he sometimes have 4 guests and they all have the video conference, like the video podcast? They're all sitting in front of their webcams and they can all see each other, and then they put that on YouTube, and the YouTube viewers can all see the podcasters and stuff.
I've only seen Joe Rogan episodes, so they're all in the same room together.
But
they got cameras on everybody.
Gotcha.
And they have. If we decided to actually record in studio with the microphones and camera, that would be probably pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, dude, it's just our imagination. We gotta let these ideas grow.
Just request them to come and let them go.
Well, I think we hit it. So thank you
so.
for the harm reduction report. We will report back to y'all when we return from Baltimore.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thank you, Cal.
Yep, your pal Cal signing off.
Sandbag on.